Okay, we're rolling. Everyone's here. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Boylston Regional School Committee to order. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Your image and/or voice may be broadcast. Let us please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we're going to do our best tonight. We've got a jam-packed agenda. We had not planned on having a robust budget discussion tonight. But I want to honor, it looks like there's a lot of folks here. I want to make sure I honor everyone that took the time to come tonight to speak. So what we're going to do now is we're going to roll into public comment. We're going to let everyone that wants a chance to speak. All right. And then what we were supposed to do we have the consultants?
Yeah, Paul is here.
Hi.
And then
I'm going to do my best to get you.
Paul is here, and then Andy Brown is on his way. Traffic.
Okay, perfect. So you know what we'll do? So why don't, since I think most of you are here to talk about the budget, right? Is that why? Okay. So what we'll do is we're going to start with public comment. Hillary, right? Hillary? You're Hillary. All right, Hillary. Okay, Hillary is here for something else. So Hillary, why don't you go first, okay? Introduce yourself and let everyone know why you're here. And then we'll roll into public comment. I'm guessing most of this is about the budget. And then what the committee will do is we'll jump into a brief budget discussion, and then we have to get into our business that we have on our agenda. We do have the budget discussion on the agenda. I had it on here as budget discussion if Berlin does not approve the school committee budget. So we'll jump into that first, debrief from last night, and then we'll move on to the other things. Just so I know everyone's trying to get back to Berlin for the rest of your town meeting, okay? All right, so Hillary, why don't you you got 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
So
You can stand up if you want. And introduce
sorry.
yourself.
Okay, I've just never been to one of these before.
It's okay, you're fine,
Yeah.
you're fine. And introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are, because I did not share your email with everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hillary Kuhn. I live in Berlin. I'm a third grader at BMS. And do I need to say anything else about myself?
Nope, that's
okay. Sorry, I've never been to one of these before.
It's okay.
I didn't know there was going to be so many people here.
This is all about the budget.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So I actually had this statement prepared about, I came tonight to advocate for performing arts in the school district, and I prepared the statement a few days ago. And I'm not gonna read it all because I think that I was planning on advocating for theater and music and things like that at Berlin Memorial and just the elementary schools in general, and then advocating for some things that the music teachers have expressed that they need. Just to a little background, at the beginning of this year, I formed a committee. We're through Link, and there's about 8 of us on the committee, and we're the Performing Arts Committee, and we've done actually a lot of work this year to advocate and enhance and promote the performing arts at BMS. And it's one of the reasons why we have a play happening this Friday at BMS in the morning. So it's really cute. You should come. So anyway, I think that some of what I was gonna say is probably not super relevant. Well, it hopefully will be relevant, but maybe not right now. So, so I'm just not gonna say all that, if that's okay.
So you can email it to me, and then what
Yeah.
happens when you send an email, it goes to the committee and it'll be public record. We'll give it to our secretary and she keeps it on
Okay.
record. It's public record.
Okay, so I will email that to you.
Yeah, that's
And then
perfect.
Can I come up there?
Please.
Okay, I made this packet and I have 7 copies. I didn't know how many, I didn't
The
realize.
committee, there's 6 committee members and
6.
Carol, so that's
Okay,
perfect.
so I'll just pass out the packet that I made with it's just some information that the music teachers have shared with us about their needs. So I'll just pass it out and then you guys can just look at it when you have a chance.
Thank you.
So, who are you?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Julie, Jessica, Jessica?
Hi. Oh, Jessica, hi. Oh, we were on Zoom. Yeah, we talked on Zoom. Hi, thank you so much for.
And then Carol?
Yeah,
Myself and Lisa, and then Laurie and Mike.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. I'm sorry, I know the timing on this is not
I
great.
know,
I
I
thought
just
about that
kind
this
of-
morning. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
This is great. It's great.
I just,
I don't know, but
yeah. Unless somebody else.
yeah. No, that's okay. No, I think, hi. Thank you so much. Okay, I think I'm all set.
Hillary, I really appreciate this, and the time that you guys have spent working on this. Obviously, I think this is very important, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna roll into public comment. If you would like to speak, can you raise your hand, just so I know who is planning on speaking, who's just reserving. So we've got two over here. Oh, no one else is planning to speak? Okay, all right, that's great. All right, so who wants to go first? Kyle, let's do it. Thank you.
Kyle Burns, I'm the president of LINK, the parent-teacher organization at BMS. Anybody at town meeting last night heard my voice a few times. And I have done my level best to help LINK, to help our community understand what's going on with our budgets. And we came within 10 votes of actually passing it, and we beat an effort to put it to ballot. So I feel like there was a fair amount of win from last night. And there's a fair amount of learning, and that's why I wanted to really come and articulate how the community is showing up today to me, specifically, and through messaging through LINK. And so first and foremost, I'm here as LINK to learn what the process from here going forward is, so that we can rally the families to be in support of the budget. That said, our families have been very clear that last night's 10 votes could have been earned if there had been a lot more transparency in the budget that the school committee presents. We trust our town to utilize our tax dollars appropriately, and to that extent, they give us a line item budget to see how they are using our tax dollars. It is not unreasonable for our communities to receive line item budgets from the school committee, so that when they say, well, what the heck is this for? You can very obviously point line to line what it is for, and the argument ceases. So my request that I am echoing on behalf of many people who have reached out to me today is that the school committee approaches this next portion of coming up to this new town meeting with clarity and the ability to provide a very transparent budget, so that we all can easily defend the needs you have to serve our children and our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the budget in a little bit and give some clarity. It's hard for me because a lot of stuff was said at, I don't know, the 20 meetings we've had this year at the subcommittee meetings. I get it. If I was not on this committee, I would not be listening to all of it or watching all of it. A lot of the questions asked last night were addressed. And if somebody had come to the budget forum on March 19th and asked questions, it would have been addressed. You're not wrong. So we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but let's have the next public comment, or the last public comment, right?
Jason Paquette, I have a 7th grader here at Tejano and a 4th grader at BMS. Relatively new to the community. We haven't even gone through one full academic year. We moved in the middle of last year. This was our first town meeting, so it was a little eye-opening. I had a prepared statement and I had asked if I could take 5 minutes. Now, I had not coordinated with Kyle, and I feel like I'm gonna regurgitate a lot of what she said, but may I read, or would you
Go
prefer
ahead.
if I keep
Whatever
my
you're
time
comfortable
down?
with. Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
I have a tendency to wander if I don't have it written, so I'm going to try to stay right on point. So regarding the contentious Berlin town meeting on Monday and the town's rejection of the school committee's requested budget, I wanted to offer feedback about the discussion leading up to the failed vote. Even as someone who voted for the budget, I was missing important information about justifying the budget. If we take example from the Berlin Capital Improvement Plan and the 9 Finance Committee budget motions that were voted on before we got to Berlin and Tohono. Data regarding the items in the budget and year-over-year changes were readily available in the warrant handout. When there was a discussion on a point, town committee members mostly answered questions with specific information. Several of these budget items included 6 to 8% upward changes, despite a goal to keep the changes to 2%, in other words, the same challenges we've been hearing about in this body. Yet they all passed because the supporting justification was readily available and questions about details were generally answered. So they earned the trust of the voting members. Similar information about the school budgets was not readily available to the town members. The explanations that leaned heavily on draconian cuts felt disingenuously scared tactics. I suggest more proactive distribution of summaries and commentary on the most salient points of the overall budget. It could have been a handout at the table when we entered. It could have been mailed out to town members in advance of the meeting, not just the parents of school children in this district, or at the very least, a slide put up on the screen during discussion. As for pointing to the website for meeting minutes from March, I had a hard time finding them when I was actively seeking them out. When I finally found the budget PowerPoint deck, it was still confusing to read through without the context of the discussion and presentation the deck accompanied. And it lacks breakdowns for what is behind those numbers. Most townspeople without kids in the school system would have little reason to go look for this. And it feels like that is the demographic that mostly voted against the budget. Even those that found the deck asked questions about large line items for instruction and other services. They didn't get a clear answer. Additional evidence of the lack of transparency and diligence that eroded trust was apparent when asking for over $500,000 in capital expenses without supporting evidence of quotes and plans, only to find out that once quotes were received, the budget request could have been a third lower. This calls into question whether diligence was applied to finding reductions in savings elsewhere in the budget before resorting to cutting all arts and athletics. I suggest putting more emphasis on highlighting what components of the budget cannot be changed and the reason why. Some information was mentioned very briefly and almost like an afterthought, instead of being emphasized and clarified as the drivers of the budget. I heard things like 3% increase mandated for teachers, there was 4% for a different group of people. And this is to a point that salaries are the largest portion of the budget, and those people and their families are experiencing the same inflation we are. And their contractually mandated raises are already in excess of the 2.5%. There is sort of an ambiguous reference to required spending that we can't cut, but not a lot of clarity on what that was. There's some other reference to some other nebulous state requirements and no information about what that meant. There was a passing comment about dollar per student compared to other districts, which I think is a fantastic data point to emphasize that we're already achieving great results with lower spend than other districts. Numbers of teachers versus paras versus administrators versus others. There was a slide in the deck listing over 600,000 in reductions that didn't get talked about. The budget with versus without the new special ed program that is supposedly generating savings. These evidential points should be summarized and articulated cohesively in a table to support the budget that is being requested, not brought up reactively or defensively in passing discussion. Out of the $4.5 million for BMS and the $3.5 million for Tohono, what is the breakout of the numbers and the reason for the upward change beyond 2.5%? What dollar amount makes up the non-negotiable, and why is it non-negotiable, versus discretionary like music, arts, and athletics? Remember that your audience isn't as entrenched in the details as you all are. We need clarification on details that you may take for granted given your regular exposure to them. Instead of only talking about the cuts, show the simplified picture of what baseline minimum is required, what reductions have already been made, what savings have already been achieved, what is discretionary, and therefore what any budget shortfall has to be taken from. Having the supporting evidence more readily available and answering questions more directly will instill confidence in the voting members. Remember that you're selling this budget to the town members, so make it easy for them to understand it. On a final note, regardless of what is or isn't legally required, healing the dysfunctional relationship with the Finance Committee would certainly grease the wheels with the town members if the budget already agreed upon was recommended by the Finance Committee coming into the town meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, did anyone have, that was it for public comment? Okay. Did anyone have any communications? Want to share? Did you?
Well, it was basically, I just had a lot of conversations with people in the community all day today. But they were pretty much saying the same things that you guys already spoke about. So, yeah, I probably don't need to repeat it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second?
Laurie and Julie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, so I think what we're gonna do, because it seems like a lot of people, I'm guessing, are here to hear about what's gonna happen with the budget. I'm gonna say a few things. We'll push, Emerson is not here, so we'll push that to the end, Lisa. And then we're gonna go into the budget discussion. We have an executive session that's gonna start at 6:45 at the latest. So we're gonna stay on a schedule tonight, and if there's anything that we don't get to, we are going to have our as-needed meeting, which I believe is May 28th. We'd originally scheduled it for Zoom. If we need it for more time to actually discuss, we had it on a Zoom because we need to vote on 2 scholarships in Berlin. If we need to actually discuss anything, it will end up being an in-person meeting. So if there's any overflow from tonight, that's what we'll end up doing, will be May 28th. All right, so a few things I wanted to say about the budget. I have some observations as well, and I spent last night doing a lot of observing and not speaking. It certainly was eye-opening. So first off, the process of the budget, we start working on it probably sometime in the fall. And what happens is the principals and the administrators come in and they give a list of things they need, extras, right? We take that to the towns, and we had a pretty robust list this winter, right? We had a pretty robust list. We take that to the towns and they yay or nay it, right? They're like, oh, there's no way we can do this, or, so we start having informal conversations. Julie and I actually went with Carol and Nancy on December 8th, and we met with the Berlin FinCom. Julie and I make up the budget subcommittee. We meet every month. The meeting is an open meeting. It's open to the public. The agenda is published. The minutes are published, and the meetings are recorded. So if you want information about the details of the budget, we discuss it ad nauseum. We meet for about 2 hours every month, some months twice a month. Those are all on our website. So we started back then. We met, I think the list included multiple heads at Tohoto. We had an SRO in there. I don't know if John had anything in Berlin. I think the roof we had talked about, solar panels, and most of what we asked for, both towns said we just can't do it this year. We just can't do it. So we took it back to the table, and in Berlin Memorial, we ended up taking everything out. We added nothing new for Berlin Memorial. For Tohoto, we ended up deciding to add a finance teacher, which is going to end up being a state mandate. I don't think we added anything else, right, as far as heads goes.
Just the AD. Moving on.
Well, yeah, so we added 1 head at Tohoto. At Boylston Elementary, we ended up adding a teacher, which was needed. So this is all done through talks through December and January. On February 27th, we had a draft of the budget that was presented to the school committee. Everyone in the community is invited to come, invited to speak. Did anyone show up to that meeting, guys? I think we had 2 people. Or was that when we had no one? I can't remember. We open it up for questions. It's in Mrs. Costello's email. The towns have it on their websites. It's blasted out to all of the boards, the FinComs, the Board of Selectmen. So everyone is aware of it, or at least to the best of our ability. I didn't get any questions. So again, we have budget subcommittee meetings. We go to finance committee meetings. We try to meet in the middle somewhere. All of this was done. And we presented our final budget on March 19th at something called a public forum, which is pretty much like a town meeting. So any of you guys could have come and spoke and asked questions. all of the details were explained. I think we met for 2 hours that night. We literally just dug into the budget. Our director of finance presented it. She explained everything. We did have a line by line, something that we cannot put out there because it includes salaries and very detailed information where you could pinpoint things that we, might not want all that detail out there. So we did that on March 19th. Again, I think we had 2 members of the public show up at that meeting. The budget passed at that meeting. We had a lot of good discussion. It passed with adding the things I discussed before. The next step after that is the budget goes to town meeting. And at that point, town meeting is not really a forum to discuss or change or explain the school committee budget. It's a forum where the town should have knowledge of the budget and they either approve it or they deny it. And it's based on, maybe some information that might be explained at town meeting is the effect on taxes that would come from the town. So this is the process. Where are we now? Now the budget has failed in Berlin. The budget has passed in Boylston. Boylston funded the budget. Boylston is putting a roof on the elementary school and adding a teacher. So Boylston, the budget passed. Berlin, the budget did not pass. Right now, what happens in a regional school district, the budget comes back to the school committee. We decide if we want to change it or if we want to create a new budget. We vote on that budget again. And then the town has 45 days to hold another town meeting where the budget is voted again. That time in between when the school committee is voting and the town meeting, that's the time for people to hopefully do their research, review the budget, watch the recordings, because I understand it's really hard to get here. I have 2 little kids too, and a husband that's on the road all the time, so I'm always scrambling for childcare. I get it, it's really hard. So, but that's the time where you should be looking at the budget, figuring out if there's any questions and asking those questions, because going into that level of detail on town floor is just not possible. And I don't believe we've ever done that. And as far as the warrant goes, this is something that the town prints. So they take the assessment as certified by the treasurer of the school district and they print this. We have no say what goes in the budget, and what goes in the warrant and what does not. As a matter of fact, we have asked multiple times to just put the school committee budget in the warrant and been told no by Berlin this year. Boylston had it in the way that we had asked this year. So that is where we are now. I welcome questions and feedback. I think it's great. Hold on, Jackie. Guys, did I miss anything in there in that process?
Megan, can I?
Yes, please, Mike.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, going forward, it's clear there's a disconnect.
Absolutely.
I don't know where it is, but if we vote on the budget tonight, we do it a couple days from now, whatever it is, 45, 47 days from now, whenever that
Yes.
next vote takes place. We have to get someone to put this information together. It has to be like a simple one-page
Yep, I agree.
data, infographic, whatever, something. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the line item in there either, but
Yeah.
still, we have to see. I don't know why it was done that way, but there's clearly a disconnect between what is working with the town and what actually happened. I don't know where it was missed, where it was dropped, but
I think there's a lot of little things.
I don't know, but.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot
We're gonna
of
have
little things.
The ball was dropped on the communication. I don't know what last year's was brought up for, but the next 3-4 weeks is gonna have to be, I mean, it's simple, there's nothing new in there, it's what it costs tomorrow to pay for what we have today. It's just inflation, it's just what it is. But we just need to be better at explaining that.
Yeah, Laurie, oh, sorry.
I just had a suggestion. I was thinking, and Jessica had a suggestion before, and I think it's a good one. I'm wondering if I should go, I know I can go to Vimeo and post our subcommittee meetings on our school committee page. and then maybe we could share, especially the budget ones.
Yeah, I
Nobody's
thought,
gonna watch the subcommittee.
I agree, but I
We need a
feel like
single
some,
page
I
that
agree with you, Mike.
says what it is.
No, I think we
That
need that too.
can be Email,
Some-
circulate, printed,
I-
mailed, discussed,
I
spoken to.
prefer to.
Well, we're not gonna
read things,
mail
some
out the
people prefer
school-
to watch them.
Yeah.
So if we have it out there, it's just another way for other people that might be able to see. So it's just a little more transparency. No, I know, but I'm just saying.
if you wanna put it on, I thought it was already on the Vimeo,
It is
or
on
whatever.
Vimeo,
because,
but I linked it to our
Brittany-
Facebook page. Some people get all their information from Facebook, it's like the town square. It's the-
Yes.
So I just feel like it's another thing, I'm not saying it's the answer, I'm just suggesting.
Yeah.
From now on, I'll put our subcommittee links there, and that way people will say, oh, I can go and find it, because someone did comment that it was hard to find things on our website. So if I can try to
Yep.
put things there, that might be really helpful.
Yeah, the budget is right, for anyone that's looking for the budget, it's a PowerPoint presentation, and it is right on the home page
So I think.
of
if-
this district, right?
If we could move it,
Yep.
perhaps, like, or post the PowerPoint, and then also like just not the whole meeting that it was in, but to cut it. And I think Brittany said she could do that, if she. if
Just the
we-
portion on the
if we
budget?
gave her the, you know, the beginning and the end time mark, or timestamps. she could do
Yeah,
that.
okay,
I think, Mike, I think we can do what's being asked. We can do that on our budget subcommittee meeting. Because the problem with this, I know it because I've taken the time to know it because I was forced to take time to know it.
yeah,
But for the general public, these numbers, I mean, the 26,931 and all of that, right, this goes back to communication. We want to be effectively communicating. And I don't think the packet does that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a CPA, you can pick it up and move through, it. You get it. But for general people, like myself included, I did not get it until I got it.
yeah,
But on town floor, when we need to, and I would actually argue that point about these line items being readily available in our warrant, I don't think they are at all. And I've done the warrant with the town for over a decade. However, I think we can do,
have it up.
what does that $500,000 represent? What does that $255,000 for Tohoto represent? If we do not pass that 750,
What's the
and
list?
then it will be more than that because in Tohonto's portion of the 65%. And see, this is where all the townspeople, you don't understand it unless you've been a part of it. So we can do that, we can do that. I can take that on, I can write
Yeah.
that narrative of that.
So the only thing is, and again, just a point, the school committee does not have access to the general ledger. That would be a segregation of duties issue because we actually sign the warrants, right? So, we cannot go in, we can ask the district to provide us with a detail to the budget.
Yeah.
And we can use that and hopefully come up with something. But the school committee does not prepare the budget. The district prepares the budget. The school committee approves the budget. The school committee does not have access to prepare the budget or to even know what should go in the budget. That comes from the principals and then the director of finance who has general ledger access, right? So we don't have that type of access that I think what we can do because we have the knowledge, we can say, oh, we know what this makes up, like what Julie tried to do on town floor last night when somebody asked, they were like, what is this increase? And she said, okay, there's a special ed transportation increase and there was an increase in, we hired 4 paraprofessionals for the Bridges program and that's what this is. So what we can do is we can document those increases in a summary, but none of us are qualified or should be certifying what is included in the general ledger or how that stuff is broken down. We're just essentially approving it. We're not preparing it.
Yeah.
So we can take what we have and try to summarize it.
Yeah.
And definitely, I agree. I think that something needs to go out. We are not gonna do a mailing. We do not have the money to send a mailing. It can go out in the newsletter. It can go out through the schools and it can go to the towns. We also do not have access to email everyone in the town. Is that correct, Carol?
Yeah, I could send it to the town.
We can ask the towns to send it out to the public, but we cannot ourselves blast out an email to the towns. So I think that's a great point that we can do for the budget moving forward.
And I hope that we have an email copy of Jason's comments, because he had some really excellent suggestions for.
Yeah, were you gonna email me that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And all of those questions, again, should go to the Director of Finance, because unless we ask, and we had, for when we voted on the budget, we had that spreadsheet, right, guys? Remember, we had the spreadsheets with the detail? That's not something we prepare or we input into the system. That's just something that we receive as a report ourselves, and then we kind of have to figure it out. For those that don't know, we are in between Director of Finances, so we are working to hire a new one. That's on the agenda tonight. All right, so yes.
Am I allowed to speak during?
Yeah, I mean, not really, but if you have something
I
quickly to add.
wanted to sort of reinforce the idea that we're not necessarily asking for detailed line items of everyone's salary. Like if we take inspiration from the public safety lines on the warrant, there's a top line for police salary. We're not getting individuals, we're just getting total top line.
Yeah, we absolutely have that spreadsheet, and we debated about
So
posting
that's
that,
what we're
and we
talking
did not post that. So
So
because it
for
was
our
a,
teacher salaries, and these are the things we're not allowed
It
to
was a
cut
very-
because of 3% raise. Here's the
Yeah.
para salaries, and here's the thing we're not allowed to cut because
Yeah.
of 4% raise.
yeah, we had that detail. It was a very messy report. We opted not to put that on the website because Nicole had asked. Yeah, so we did have that detail. It was messy. All right, Jackie.
My question was just about the process that you were saying going forward.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. Did you want to?
Just Boylston have to revote?
I am still unclear on that. I have put in a question to council and they are not sure because Boylston passed their budget. So I don't know that Boylston has to have another town meeting. Berlin, if the committee does not accept the town of Berlin, so last night what was voted was the town of Berlin's FinCom's budget. If the committee decides to accept that budget, they do not need to have another town meeting. If the committee decides not to accept that budget and we vote on a different budget, then Berlin must have another town meeting to approve whatever budget.
But if you change the budget, would Boylston have to vote because?
We're not-
that we-
If we change Boylston's budget, so like if we change Tohoto or Boylston Elementary, if we do not change anything for Boylston, I do not believe Boylston has to vote. Our council is out of pocket today, so that question is in, and as soon as we have the answer, we'll let you know. All right, last question, and then we're gonna discuss the budget.
Yeah, just curious, March 19th, that's when you voted for the proposal. Don't debates end for all budgets, like March 22nd?
It's 45 days before town meeting, so the school committee must vote 45 days before town meeting. That's the law.
When does it actually close for debate with like FinCom or the select board, or
I think it's,
how long can they debate with you about it?
oh, so they technically cannot, the FinCom technically really has no say in how the school committee sets the budget. We try to negotiate.
When can they propose requests? When is that?
I think
Up
she
until
knows.
the final vote, once the school committee votes, then that budget is unchangeable unless we have another vote. And we cannot have another vote less than 45 days before town meeting. The vote has to be final 45 days within town meeting. So this year, town meeting was yesterday, May 6th. So it would have had to been final the last week of March. So I think we had like a week to spare. We voted on March 19th. We tried to do our best to, that's why we present it in February as well. So if there's questions or comments or changes, we had that huge chunk of time in between. There's also laws, like it had to be in the newspaper for 7 days before we had our public forum. So it was also in the TNG, right, Carol? Yeah, 7 days before that, and it, you know, was a public forum. Yeah, Jess?
Maybe explaining why our timeline was different this year than in past years. I think that's relevant.
Yeah, so again, we the past 2 years, we've done a somewhat different timeline where we have, and again, I am not a finance director. I'm a CPA. I'm versed in taxes, but I'm not versed in governmental accounting, something I had to learn a lot of this year. But what happens is the assessment is not just the expenses of the district. The assessment is a calculation of a set of other revenue that comes in from the state and the federal government and other grants. And so the director of finance gets all of that information. Some stuff doesn't come in until March. So in order to be as accurate as possible, in the past, we had kind of estimated that stuff. It's really tough to do that. we try to push it off as long as possible so that those actual numbers can come in. And we can use those, so the assessment can be as accurate as possible before it's certified. Once the school committee votes, then the assessment letters are sent to the towns by the district treasurer. So the director of finance draws up the letters and the district treasurer certifies those letters, signs off on them, and sends them to the towns. And that's saying, here you go, towns, this is what we need in the warrant, because this is what our budget is, and this is what needs to be voted on.
And
All right.
And the consultants that came in that were mentors.
We did have consultants come in that advised us to do that, to wait as long as possible so that we could keep the assessment and the expenses as accurate as possible. So that was, we were trying to kind of find a happy medium of not going too far, but still, again, in Boylston, we had 0 issues. We got it in on the warrant on time. I think we were like a day or 2 late, but their timeline is different than Berlin. So I'm guessing the towns make the timelines as they feel or as they see fit. All right, so my question tonight is, we're faced with us, so school committee. So I did speak with Kim today briefly, and we're faced with the decision of, so she did say if we wanted to, we could vote on the budget tonight, if we decide to keep everything relatively the same. All right, the only change I would propose is because we did get a quote on the HVAC after we voted on the budget, we might wanna change the Berlin capital assessment on the HVAC to the amount that matches the quote. But I don't know how people feel. Do people want, I'm talking to people on this committee, do people want to vote again on the budget tonight? Or do you guys want to think on it and wait? Do you want to propose some changes like, and take things out, or how are you all feeling on the budget? Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, you go first.
I would like to know if we did accept the town's number from last night, because that's what the voters chose. What would that look like in Berlin? So I assume you've been looking at the books today at some point. What would that look like in Berlin?
Yeah. There's a time component here, the 45 days, June 15th, the deadline, July 1st. the
Yes,
deadline.
we have deadlines.
If we can post something, is it too late to post a meeting today for 48 hours to have something Thursday afternoon? If we could postpone it just a day or two,
Too late today.
reach
for
out to, Scott, the town, just be like, listen,
Friday.
all right.
Friday, we could have a meeting Friday, like
Okay, so that's, that pushes our timeline out 3 days.
3 days,
which
not
gets
bad.
Pretty tight, because then we're into the end of June, and we've got July 1st deadline, but we're past the June 15th deadline where teachers need to be notified. But maybe the town doesn't have to take 45 days, they
They
can do
don't.
it earlier.
if they act in good faith, hopefully they'll do it
So if
earlier.
we postponed it from tonight, discuss it tonight.
Yep.
Postpone the vote, and just one more time, reach out to Scott.
Okay, I'd be happy to do
I don't
that
know,
and see if he can chat. Yeah,
but I would like to know what the schools would look like if we accepted those numbers.
did John and Lisa want to speak to that briefly?
So
I mean, you said spoke to that last night, so I mean, I just kind of reiterate the key points that you said last night.
So what it would look like, so we have to be cognizant of what is required by the state, because it's a middle high school in particular, because we're giving them a diploma for graduation, so we have to be very careful about what we are able to cut, because there are graduation requirements. So then we look at what we are able to cut in that realm. We are able to cut sports. We are able to cut, and sports means coaches and transportation. We know that transportation is a very large line, $30,000. And let me just bring up, because I did work on the budget today.
Lisa, why don't you bring that up and ask another question?
Yes,
So if we were to accept, let's say, the Tohoto number, which is different, what the school committee voted, would Boylston then have to?
Yes.
again?
Boylston has to vote again.
Right.
I think we'd have to take that back to Boylston, FinCom, and Boylston would have to
So Boylston would, they would see the cuts too, because of the shared nature of Tohoto and the district-wide
Yes.
number.
The town of Boylston would have cuts as well, yes. The
Yeah,
students in
that's-
Boylston would be affected by this as well. If we cut Tohoto,
It would, from my understanding, it would actually leave Boylston in a better financial position because so in order to get, so there's a gap of $255,157 between the school committee proposed budget and the Berlin Finance Committee budget for the schools. That 255,000 rounded is 35% of an allocation at Tohoto. So then what we would have to do is, in order to come up with that amount of money to cover that discrepancy in the Berlin budget, we have to cut a total of $730,000 over our entire budget. Because it's 30, right, because it's, yes, it is.
Tohoto,
Is everybody clear on that?
Berlin, Tohonto's expenses, all right, so Tohonto's expenses are, this is rough, that's not actually the number, there is an actual allocation, it's based on the number of Berlin students and the number of Boylston students that go to Tohoto. For rough number purposes, because we don't wanna say 36.667%, we're gonna say about 35% of the students are from Berlin and about 65% are from Boylston. So when we have an expense, like when we do the budget, we have all the expenses for Tohoto, and then in order to do the assessment, the director of finance would take 65% of the Tohoto expenses and allocate that to Boylston assessment, and 35% of the Tohoto assessment or Tohoto expenses and allocate that to the Berlin assessment. If the town of Berlin is saying you need to cut $255,000 for the operating assessment at Tohoto, the total cost, you can't just, if you cut a head at Tohoto, only 35% of that head is allocated to Berlin. So for example, if you cut $100,000 head at Tohoto, like let's say we cut, this is a round number, I'm not giving anyone's salary, a teacher for $100,000. That Berlin would only see $35,000 worth of savings. So if $255,000, you divide that by 35%, you get about $730,000 is what Lisa would have to cut at Tohoto.
Is there any room in the agreement that somehow could be waived? Or, I'm just wondering if the regional agreement can be looked at to see if there's some type of loophole that we don't have to do that.
That's a question for Kim, but I do not think that Boylston would be okay with funding. Yeah, picking up, because that's the Boylston taxpayers. I don't think there's a loophole there.
Yeah, I don't know, I have something to share.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Lisa, just 2 more minutes and then we gotta shift gears.
Okay, so what I did today was I looked at chunks of the budget that would not impact graduation requirements. So we would have to sit down and as an administrative team and look at this. But I know that our extracurriculars, so all of the clubs, so if we cut all of the clubs, that's approximately $46,000, so $45,826. If we cut the fall athletics, that's $45,500. Now, remember, we're trying to achieve $730,000. So we're talking about nickel and diming this. But this will not impact graduation requirements. So we have winter sports, $30,573. We have spring sports, $47,526, for a total of extracurricular and sports, $123,600. Then we can look at stipend positions. So team leader positions, department chair positions, that would be a savings of, now, please understand, everybody who is seeing this recording, I am giving numbers to like values of chunks of things that are not going to impact graduation requirements. I am not saying that these items are being cut. I'm saying that this is how we're going to have to nickel and dime $730,000. Okay, is everybody clear on that? I am not saying we're slashing these things. I'm saying this is what I have to look at.
And at the end of the day, Lisa, to be clear, it would be by vote of school committee as to what actually the school committee would accept as a cut and as, right? The school committee would have to essentially determine.
Correct. So, department chair, team leads, that's $27,812. We do have a retirement for world languages. If we didn't fill that, we would have one salary and one benefit package, and that would be, over $100,000. You can understand that heads impact what happens in our school, but that's the largest chunk of money is salaries. What would that do if we didn't fill that retirement? Middle school language would be unavailable. So the students in the middle school would not have language, opportunity for world language exploration, and we wouldn't have opportunities for maybe year 4 Spanish. We have other positions we can cut. If we cut the arts and we cut music, we can essentially say $100,000 per head. So approximately, everybody's salary, because everybody's on the matrix. Those are the types of things that would, and I'm talking $100,000 at a time or $50,000 at a time, and we're trying to obtain $730,000. That's going to be a massive implication.
And I think, okay, good.
I can't, Megan, if you could, people want to ask questions, and that's not you have to call on people.
Yeah, Lisa, did you have something?
I'm just like, that is so invasive, like I can't even imagine that happening. And I have a thought that is gonna be probably very unpopular for
Okay.
people in Berlin, but it almost seems like it could potentially just solve all of this for this year.
Okay.
So that is a lot of suffering and a lot of degradation of our education. And when you balance that against people being hot at BMS, could we put off the AC?
It's unrelated.
So that's a
Totally
cap.
unrelated. That's not an
I
assessment.
realize it comes from a different fund and whatever.
That's something they would
but,
fund
like,
with cash.
But it's not gonna affect the 750, is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Yeah.
Well, because Berlin is like upset about 250, right?
No, they're upset about the, well, at the end of the day, I mean, again, we've gone back and forth with them. I think at the end of the day, they don't want they really don't want to increase the taxes any higher than the 2.5% or whatever the number they gave us. So, so first off, capital is free cash. They use free cash to fund that.
Can that get shifted?
They don't want it, that's what happened last year. They used free cash to fund an operating assessment, and that's what they're complaining about the $383,000.
I understand it's like not,
It's to fund heads.
preferred, but
Well, they're saying they don't, I don't know that they,
But I think
Go ahead, Mike.
Lisa's, getting rid of the air conditioner is probably something that needs to happen this year.
we can talk
Just
about,
to-
yeah, that's
we
something
can
we can
talk
talk
about
about, yeah.
It doesn't affect the operating, it doesn't affect, what Lisa's describing right now is reality, because that's the number that was voted at town meeting,
Yes.
that's the number they're prepared to pay. So this is reality right now, unless we want to have this argument for the next 45 days.
Yes.
This is the reality. So what Lisa's describing is the reality in this town.
And it's
Wow.
not,
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
and I'm not being dramatic. Like I really, I wasn't trying to be dramatic. It is the reality of that our budget is, I mean, I can go down and I can be like, okay, so I can cut $500, from, the science budget, and I can cut $400 from here. But that is not going to even touch $730,000. So even if I tried to pare down every single thing where no one would have any supplies for being here, it's not even gonna come close to even one person. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
So it is not dramatic.
Is it possible to do this without affecting graduation requirements?
To do what?
It is.
Cut
It-
$750,000.
It is, but it's very complicated, and I would feel very uncomfortable discussing it in a public forum. I have spoken to my faculty at faculty meeting and spoke to them very honestly about what $730,000 would mean. I've spoken to individuals because I did not want to have them hear me on the town floor saying, we will not have a music program. We will not have an art program without having spoken to them. So although we've talked about worst case scenario, I'm not prepared to share all the details because we could say, because as you pointed out, that in the end, school committee can, if I lay out all the possibilities, you can say this one, and this one. So you could say no middle school sports and these 2 varsity sports, and no transportation, they have to get there themselves. You could say, so it's a puzzle piece that has to be put together. And I can provide all the information as the best I can that will not impact graduation requirement, but in the end, it's a school committee that will then have the decision or take my recommendation or however that process works. So it's more complicated. I've shared with you some of the numbers.
All right, this is good. I'm not trying to cut you off, we gotta move along. So yeah, no, John, tell us about what Berlin Memorial would look like if you have to cut $455,000.
So I'll be way briefer, because it's not possible, and I've tried to make this clear several times. We don't have sports at Berlin Memorial School. We don't have stipends at Berlin Memorial School. We don't have department heads at Berlin Memorial School. When you look at the teaching staff, I have 2 teachers per grade. I can't combine a grade into one room because the rooms aren't big enough.
Yeah.
I have 2 special educators. I can't go to 1 special educator because the 2 can barely get the job done. We can close the Bridges program and save about $150,000. But those 5 kids are going out of district at 5 times the
It'd be $1
cost.
million for us, yeah.
It would be a.
But it would be mandated, so the state would come in and say, you're
You
paying.
gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
There is no, you could cut art and music, and somebody said that, it was drama. It's not drama, it's really the only thing I can get rid of is art and music and library and health, because PE is required. But if I do that, those people only work for me 2 days a week. We're talking $20,000 a head. It doesn't get me anywhere near, and of course, Lord knows what happens in Boylston. Because
That's a lot of
those
angry.
very talented, very capable people
Right.
need full-time jobs. So it won't happen. What they proposed can't happen because you can't run the school.
Right,
You just can't. And there's a whole process that I would, encourage the committee to avail itself of.
Yep.
Which ends in a 2-town vote. Just have patience with the process.
Yeah.
One last thing, and then I
Yeah.
gotta go, because the moderator will yell at me if I don't unlock the doors.
yeah,
Do not, I would strongly encourage this committee not to rush into a financial decision. We don't have a handle on finances.
Yep.
We don't know, Lisa did a really nice job, but as we tried to dig in, well, what does this cost, what is that? We can't tell you yet. Give us a couple of weeks to sit when we're not exhausted
Yep.
and frustrated and a little scared. Give us a couple of weeks to really dig through and make a reasonable proposal. I don't think the number changes. I think the school committee number is exactly what we need. But let's give the town something, to your point, that they can really hold on to. This was our big mistake. We expected them to come to us. Doesn't happen like that in Berlin. You go to them. And it's been that way for, ask any of those guys, they'll tell you. We've been coming to them for years. And we have to do that again. We have to be the people who reach out. Because it's, as my mom would have said, it's not enough to be right if you don't get what you need in the end. We might be right, but we're not gonna get where we need to be.
You're 100% right, and.
I'm sorry, we could just stop the meeting right there.
Trust me, I would love to. I'd love to go to my son's baseball game.
You're saying weeks, we don't have weeks, we have.
We actually do
You've
not.
got 45 days.
No, we
We've
have
got 30.
30 days,
We have
but
I want
then
10
the
of them.
town has 45 days from when we vote.
Yeah. Which 45
If we
days
go
is
past
nice.
July 1st, so if the town says, like they did last night, and we go to day 45,
Right.
the state is gonna come in on July 1st because we don't have a budget.
Yes, they are.
And that is going to affect Boylston.
That's part of the process.
But the
The
one
cuts
vote
you're talking
budget,
about in Tohoto are gonna affect Boylston just as much. The loss of art and music, those teachers will get new
Yeah.
jobs, is gonna affect Boylston just as much.
I think we'd prefer to get to that process before July 1st. as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying take the whole 45
we do, and
days,
hopefully they'll be able to get the meeting on the books.
but don't do it in the next 2 days, because I gotta tell you, tomorrow I'm sleeping in, because I'm tired. And I know the superintendent is tired, and I know the rest of the admin team is tired. But next week sometime,
All right,
think
let
about
me
it.
think
Yeah.
about it, let me think about it. I mean, quite frankly, if you want my opinion, I know I'm supposed to be monitoring, this. I'm ready to vote on the exact same budget tonight and maybe provide more information, and maybe that's because I'm so close to this budget, except for the HVAC. I think the capital thing is totally separate, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I think we can all get it for, now that we've just done it in Boylston, we can get a steal of a deal, it sounds like, because the rebates are like 50%, and I think the new quote is like $280,000. So then when you get the rebates, you're looking at 270,000 and 297, and then what are the rebates, like another 100 and something thousand?
Anywhere between 25 to 50%.
25 to 50% of that would be a rebate that would come back. So I mean, it's almost, and what is this, the same people that did Boylston?
No,
Oh, it's someone different, from town.
from the town of yes.
So it's somebody from the town of Berlin, so it's putting business back into the town. So anyways, that's something, we can talk about that. Go
Just
ahead, John.
real quick, just one point of information as you think about the air conditioning. Remember, we have to go back about the roof. And that's like an $800,000 job. The roof's original.
The roof is actually gonna be, that's gonna, under the new lease, the town has to deal with that. That's not gonna be a school
They
thing.
won't care, because it's still tax money.
We're literally doing this in.
John, how
Oh,
tall
wait,
is
that's
the class
John.
right now?
76 for that. But ask me again in 2 weeks. All right,
Yeah, we
thank
got a
you.
lot.
Thank you.
Megan, just looking at dates, okay?
All right, let's talk about dates. Let's
July
do that.
1st is Monday, okay, so we have to be wrapped up with everything by June 28th, okay? 45 days before June 28th is May 14th, that's Tuesday. Okay? We need a couple days in there for letters and certifications and those.
Yeah, we can't vote on Tuesday. We'd have to have, Friday would be the last day because we don't, so for, again, I'm
So we
gonna
want to
read.
do it before July 1st, this is the date.
Yeah, we don't have a director of finance. That's, so Carol's
The date
gonna,
is- Sorry,
no, go, Julie.
are you saying the date is this week?
No,
You're saying, or the
May-
date is the 14th?
Tuesday, but that's with no time between, so you need a couple days.
That means they have to have the letters by May 14th, assessment letters.
Yeah.
I know you guys are all
It's from
like,
the day, it's 45 days from the day we vote, not when they get it.
is it?
Yeah, it's from the day we
By
vote.
the, yeah. And then they have
Right.
7 days to send it. But it's 45 days regardless.
And then they have 7 days to
Vote.
send the assessment letter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to vote. All right, so let's go around the room and see what everyone wants to do. Jess, I haven't heard from you tonight. How are you feeling? What's going on?
There was a breakdown of communication, which is frustrating because last year, we had both PTOs and we were out there and going everywhere in the community. So it is frustrating that we weren't able to do that this year, but I agree with Lisa's thing that we do have to cut something to show.
Good faith?
Yeah, like that we're meeting, we realize it's a large increase for the town, but when push comes to shove, there's really not much to cut because honestly, I don't know if I want to send my daughter here next year. And I've gotten several messages to that effect too. I don't, that's not the Tohoto that I know and would want to send my kid to, so I hear you.
Can I speak just half a second?
Sure.
I'm Joe Atkinson, I'm Jaden's dad. I'm sure everybody knows her. I'm already drawing a blank. So as far as the budget, do you guys even consider that morons like me didn't know there was a meeting that was that important last night? And my wife and I, 2 votes, didn't go.
Are you Berlin residents?
Yeah, we're Berlin residents. She was born and raised.
Yeah,
She went here too. Not here down at Town Hall, but,
no.
oh, she went here. I'm saying,
Tohoto graduate,
yeah,
yes. I think
yeah. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And there's.
I do
more
feel
out there.
Legit, and I would,
If
So
you
you
would
think you
say,
guys
hey,
vote?
guys, get your butt back to that meeting and say, budget, we'll be there. Because Jaden's not gonna lose sports and Jaden's not
And
gonna lose
she'll
Mr. Here.
we're gonna pull it.
Then you'll pay 20 grand a year for private school, right?
We will have to
Pay a little bit more on your
Because if
taxes.
it was my choice, if it was my choice, and you said to me you could raise your taxes 5% this year to send your kid in Toronto, I think you guys do such a great job here, I would pay it. And I would not even question,
Thank
I would
you.
do it any day.
Carol, that's to you.
And I think that if I don't, I'm on the road, I'm a moron, I'm fixing things and stuff all day, I don't know who's telling me, I'm definitely not pushing the budgets like Jason. Jason's way smart.
My sister and my brother-in-law thought it was a procedural vote. They'd never had problems getting it approved. They didn't bother to show up. Then we were kind of like.
Last year-
And that's the
I never
Joseph,
thought it was an issue, ever.
that's the Joseph, Sarah, and Lena.
Right.
There's 4 votes right there.
So did you guys
alone.
read Carol's email every week?
No.
No.
I told you, no one writes it.
If it text is more than 4 lines, I'm not reading it.
I know.
I'm just not.
I should, I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm just being
Sorry.
honest. And I'm not stupid, I just don't.
All right, I get it. All right,
People
real quick,
that don't
yes.
want the taxes raised or overrepresented people that would have been willing to entertain the conversation were underrepresented, but without the justification to feel comfortable saying, I'm willing to pay more. So I feel like I'm sorry if I'm taking to it, but I feel like we were having the conversation backwards from what the tone of the town meeting was saying. The questions coming were really more like, where's the rest of the money going? What's happening with the other $3.5 million?
Right.
Not, I don't want to pay
What's the
$250. It was what's happening with the other, and I know you're gonna say it's on the website, it's in the minutes, but again, it's this body's job to sell the budget,
We're not
and we
reading.
have to make it easy on them to understand it. So if.
Yeah, so like financial statements, they're on the website.
Summary, not.
They really are, though. The audited financial statements are on the website. But I get it. And just so you know, just so all of you know, again, the school committee cannot do that. We cannot produce financial statements and provide it to the
Not
public.
financial statements. A little more detail on the presentation than.
I don't even know that the school committee can do that.
So the
I
school
don't,
committee doesn't have to.
I don't know that we can
The
disseminate.
superintendent.
This district has to,
can-
because we district.
Did show up to a link meeting, but only 2 weeks before the town vote. to
Yes.
even acknowledge that this was an issue. Did the superintendent say the same thing to our STAG team to allow Tohoto to have a chance to get those people out? And I
Yeah.
will tell you right now, STAGs, BMS kids suffered last night. And I will not be able to get 2 votes per household like we did last night.
Unless we have a town meeting on a Sunday at noon.
Help me sell
Yeah.
this.
Hillary was sitting right here, she didn't go because she had to stay home with her kid for childcare. That was
Because
the
the
vote.
password
Or
today.
her husband was there, we were sitting right next to us.
There's 6.
Well, yeah, yeah.
But
It just-
the votes are out there, but they need to understand.
Just email us and put it in simple dumb guy terms that says.
So on
if you don't
email.
do this,
All right.
Your daughter
Jot
could
it down.
lose art,
Yeah.
could lose.
So effective.
I said that last time. Berlin Boylston budget. for
Just
dummies.
put it in dumb guy terms.
Okay, last comment, and then we have to move forward.
Stacy Plunkett, president of the Stags PTO.
Oh, hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I just wanted to, like we were saying, the Boylston wasn't even an issue, passed, no problem.
Yes, I know, yeah.
With Berlin, it sounds to me, it's unclear to me if it's that they didn't want their taxes raised or they didn't want to spend money for something they weren't clear on. Because if it's, you don't want to spend, so if you can be more clear, like they're saying, give them the information.
I
And we
agree.
were to, no new vote on the school committee, we have a budget. Take that back with the data, no budget, no vote, no change. Take it back with all the details behind it. Kyle and I and Jackie, we worked tirelessly last year to inform everybody about the budget issues, and we were successful. So, I mean, if there's something that we can do to pre-prep people, to let them know it's a meeting, to let them know how important
In
the
Berlin,
meeting
yes.
is, to let them know why we're spending all this money and what it's going for, and then to let them know the response from Lisa and from John.
John Campbell, yeah.
John, that here's, this is our minimum if you wanna keep having arts and athletics and this and that. And that's the stick, give them the carrot, which says, here's how we're gonna sell everything, here's how we're gonna use everything. And just let us as a, like I can't vote in Berlin because I'm a Boylston resident, but I certainly know half the PTO is from Berlin. And we can always work, with people that we know. Because it's both the elementary school, we want the elementary school to succeed because those are the kids who are gonna come to us in a couple of years.
All right.
We don't want them to lose anything.
We can, Julie, I agree. We can do that. We can work with Carol. Hopefully these poor consultants that have been sitting here all night waiting to talk to us are gonna be able to help us. All right, so this is good. So, and I'm,
Megan,
Yeah.
just planning for the worst, hoping for the best, working backwards for this policy, July 1st is a Monday. Okay, if you want to have a district-wide meeting, that's the third step in the process, working backwards. Last day for that, if that were to happen on June 28th, which is the Friday before July 1st, we need to give 48 hours notice at least, right? So that brings us to the 26th of June.
Yep.
They have 45 days to hold the meeting from whenever we vote, so 45 days back from that notice period.
who decides that? Is it both towns?
That's a good question, I don't know, but they have to do it within 45 days.
That's
So
just
assuming
okay.
they use 45 days, that brings us to May
Select board?
12th, which is a Sunday. So we would have to do something before this weekend. If that.
Does anyone
is how
wanna
it
vote?
goes.
I'm ready to vote tonight.
I really think we should reach back out to Berlin, but
I want to support that. A bunch of people came to me and said, FinCom's opinion is really important and we need to repair that relationship.
we could, I don't know, we don't have an attorney here, I don't know if we could do this. We could vote tonight with a caveat that we will meet again in 2 days.
We could vote tonight. We did this
Just like
last
a clock.
year. We could vote tonight and we can talk to FinCom and see. I know they're gonna ask if we can use some of our cash to fund the budget.
We could vote tonight to start
We
the
can
clock.
vote tonight to
Meet
start
again
the
in 2
clock.
days.
We could meet again, and which is what I tried to do, to see if they wanted us to use cash. It's all in writing. After we voted, I reached out to Berlin and said, we'd love to talk to you and maybe we can use some of our cash. So maybe that's something we can do is we can vote tonight to start the clock. Now, what we can't do tonight is if you're gonna say, I wanna cut this or I wanna cut that, besides the HVAC is different, it's a one number, it's easy. If you're gonna say, I wanna cut, that one coach at Tohoto, like we can't play around with that, we don't have anyone here that can do numbers, okay? But if you guys are comfortable with revoting the budget,
I think the capital stuff has to be looked at, because that's easy.
Well,
Yes, it
she said that,
doesn't.
yeah, the Berlin Memorial Capital, but we have to vote on the budget
If we
as a
take the
whole.
AC out of the Berlin.
We can just
capital,
take
that's
the
number.
AC out of the budget, and as a matter of fact, again, according to the new lease agreement with Berlin, the town is actually responsible for installing and paying for an HVAC. So that would be something we could say, we're not putting it in our budget, but Dan got a local business guy that can actually do this for you. Oh. So all we gotta do is say to the town, you're putting business back into your town, you can use your free cash.
Take
You
that
can
number out,
take
that's
the
not the
rebates, so we'll take that out of our budget tonight. We'll just vote on the 143, which actually passed the town meeting last night.
But what would that 140 cover? I mean,
That's what's in the
That would
budget.
cover
Julie, do you have,
walkies,
let me get
yeah,
the
that
budget.
would cover walkies, that would
like
cover,
what, 15?
um,
did have quotes.
We're gonna have to.
that would cover IT, walkies, did he say?
So walkies were 12,000-ish.
Yep, walkies, the swipe cards, the IT support, that's it.
So security to protect the building.
Yep.
Balance.
Athletic field renovation, HVAC controls, non-student device repair, walkie-talkies, the paving of the walkway, the lawnmower, the water heater, the boiler repair. Is this the wrong presentation?
So athletic
That's
field,
Subtotal, 109,835% of that is at 38. Page 8 of March 19th presentation.
No, I know, I wrote my notes.
I have so many notes. So it would cover Berlin's share. The 143 is the debt.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No, that's
no,
Berlin.
so the
Memorial.
Tohoto assessment, what do they vote?
143 is Berlin,
What's that,
138 is
115?
not.
Sorry, Berlin Memorial, Julie, it would cover the IT
The
support, the
Tohoto
update, the
assessment
security,
was-
and the walkie-talkies. I thought you said what would Tohoto Capital cover? There's no issue with Tohoto Capital. So Berlin Memorial Capital, we could just take out that line of HVAC installation, 400,000. And it would cover the IT support, the security, and the walkie-talkies. Somebody last night asked why we need walkie-talkies. They will
Yeah, but that wasn't even, that
communicate
was,
with the police
We
station.
were just talking, like, the reason they honed in on that, because it was the only number put in front of them.
Okay,
That's the only number they could see.
All right.
So if we show them the OpEx budget,
okay,
we can have a more fruitful conversation.
yeah, all right. So IT support is, obviously that's devices and,
Yeah.
We gave capital, I'm sorry to speak, can I speak?
yeah, go ahead,
Capital was
We
getting all
gave,
that.
we gave them the detail on all of that and quotes, so.
Yeah,
they-
for all that
They
stuff.
did have that, they could have shared that detail.
The capital.
But they didn't.
I think that's
And
an
we certainly
important
missed.
Question.
Paul, I-
Can I, quick
All right, last question, and then we have to move forward with this.
in the town meeting, as we were checking in and sitting down, there were a number of handouts, including the Acrobat handout. As much as I'm hearing this detail has been made available to town.
We should have just had the budget.
You just need to put out, it doesn't have to be pretty like this, I'm sure they do it because they print it in-house at Acrobat, right? Because they're fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be pretty.
We don't
to
have the money
erect
for that
it.
yet.
It's just a piece of paper that's on the table for us to pick up.
Just
So
the
that
budget, yeah.
when you stand up to make an amendment, or we stand up to talk about
Yep.
why we are
Yeah, we'll have
supporting
that
it,
thing, yeah.
that paper is
We
there
could have provided
regardless
that.
of what town decided to print.
All right, we could have just put the whole budget on the table. All right, so, good lessons for next time.
So motion.
We went through this in Boylston last year and it was a totally different process, so I apologize. Also, we gave Boylston the exact same information and did not have any of the issues that we had in Berlin. So again, two different sets of people, they work differently, and we gotta manage that. We gotta do a better job managing that. All right, so let's see. So
they covered Tohoto assessment in total.
we have
They
to
did not
vote
cover
on the total number.
Correct. That's correct,
It's gonna be
Jeff.
so hard to vote on. So right now,
Oh, they haven't voted on the Tohoto assessment?
That's the first thing on the agenda.
Tonight.
oh, no, that's tonight. Oh, yeah, sorry, Jess. They
Sorry, I watched
ended,
it, but I-
they ended Berlin. They did not vote on the Tohoto capital assessment. They voted on the Tohoto operating assessment last night. They did not vote on Tohoto capital or the debt.
What's the number, but the number in the finance committee approval is the full Tohoto assessment?
The
No.
yeah, no,
It's the 200,000 left.
no. They voted on the FinCom number for the Tohoto operating assessment last night. And then they have not voted on the Tohoto capital or the Tohoto debt, but those numbers match the FinCom, so those are probably gonna pass easy peasy tonight, which it doesn't matter, they're the same number. right, so let's take a vote right now so we can get this counter started and then we can
Yeah.
reach out to the towns, maybe you can set something up for them.
So, I mean, if FinCom is recommending the same amount of capital requests
For Tohoto,
for
yes.
Tohoto, that
It will
shouldn't be
pass.
a null.
Yeah, that's gonna pass tonight.
FinCom
Yeah.
recommends and.
But it doesn't matter, the budget is taken as whole, so we have to vote on the whole budget again tonight. Because we're making a change, we're taking the HVAC out, or that's what we're gonna. I'm
But
gonna-
that won't affect Boylston, so that should.
It will
be
not
fine for
affect Boylston, so
town.
I will confirm with council that Boylston should not have to have another town meeting if we vote on this budget, but Berlin will.
Yep.
No matter what, Berlin is gonna have to have another town meeting unless the school committee took the FinCom's budget, which I don't know if anyone in this room wants to do.
No.
I do not.
It can't be a BMS then, right? It
Correct.
can't be a Tohoto.
John just said he could not operate that school with making those cuts.
So, I mean, could we have then, like Mike said, say, vote on the budget minus the BMS's,
Yes.
HVAC off to the capital, with the understanding that further talks will happen with the finance committee in 48 hours? Because
Sure, we can
because you
attempt
want us
that.
to take a vote to start that 45-day
Yes.
clock, correct?
Yeah, that's what we should do.
Yeah, and then if we have to have another vote to adjust, our vote, if we have to have a second vote, it wouldn't be to change the budget, it would be to allocate school choice funds to pay for the budget. I don't know that we're gonna be able to do that, because again, we don't have.
Why don't we, let's take
But
a
let's,
vote,
yeah,
stipulation that we'll meet again in 48 hours after reaching out to Berlin to, see what we can do, however you want.
so we'll have to meet Friday, and Nicole will have to get that agenda, will have to go out tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Yeah, we can meet Friday,
So when?
what time do you guys wanna meet Friday? I know, you wanna do it on Zoom?
No. Thank
you.
We need to.
No. All right, what time do you guys
This
want?
is, this
We need
is
to talk in
assuming
person.
they reach out, and they communicate, and.
If not, then there's no
something
need to meet.
discuss.
What time are we gonna meet on Friday? Friday is the 10th. You wanna meet at noon?
I don't know.
Oh,
What's
that
your work
people
schedule?
work.
Yeah,
Just throwing it out there.
It's Friday
night.
Finance committee probably works too.
yeah,
I mean, 4 o'clock.
I know,
I keep it 5, it's our usual time.
do you wanna do it 5 o'clock on? I mean, that's tough, right? That's the thing, it's 2 days. I got a dance class I've already prepaid for my, so what do you guys think, Julie? What do you think? Time you wanna meet on Friday?
I don't have time restrictions like other people do, so I'm open to what other people
All right.
suggest.
Jess, you're working all day on Friday?
I have a conference, but I can leave early. I'd rather not leave in the middle.
All right,
But-
What time's
but-
conference end?
Probably 3 or 4.
Is it local?
Yeah.
all right, so let's see if we can do it.
But I mean, I think also if we're inviting the finance committee, we have to consider that other people.
I would find it highly unlikely that they're gonna come, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to speak
So,
with them.
Megan, planning for the worst, hoping for the best, positive spin on this, let's
Yeah.
reach out to them tonight.
Yeah.
They're busy, but they'll have something,
I'll reach out to them tomorrow morning, they're at town meeting tonight.
I'll see them.
whatever.
Oh, perfect, that's great. All right, so what do you guys think, 4 or 5 o'clock, or no, is 5 not works for Lisa and Laurie, you wanna do 4?
4 would be better.
You wanna do 4, Laurie, does that work for you, does 4 work? Mike, 4? Jess, 4? All right, so we'll plan to meet Friday at 4 o'clock. Only if we have something else to vote on, if we do not, then we won't meet. So Nicole, we'll need to get that agenda out, the only item on that agenda will be, discuss the budget.
And a possible vote.
And, yeah, a business item for, a budget vote. All right, so let's try to take a vote right now. So let me see, I'm gonna have a hard time figuring out what the total, so we vote on the total expense, not the assessment, correct, guys? You gotta help me out, we don't have a director of finance here.
Well, what is
Right, no,
the?
you guys wanna help?
We can
What is
vote
the
on the
motion?
budget as approved March 19th, 2024, the previous committee meeting,
Less,
less the 400 capital.
all right.
The BMS.
Okay, so could I please have a motion to reapprove the March 19th, 2024 school committee budget as stated, less $400,000 for HVAC in the Berlin Memorial Capital, right?
So moved.
All right, Laurie,
Second.
Jess. All right, discussion.
So I think a big bone of contention was the 383,000.
Yes.
That was moved from some.
It wasn't moved. It was they used, this is what we're gonna get ourselves into this muck again now. They used cash to fund an operating budget. And an operating budget by nature is an operating budget. It's heads, it's recurring expenses.
But I think the line item that it was applied to originally is not the line item that it was applied to in the current budget.
No, all right, so what happened was we had children that were, the assessment was approved. That means it's the superintendent and the school committee's decision on what is done with that money. We can't open up this can of worms where towns can come in after assessments are voted and say, oh, well, you got the money, but you didn't have to use it. Well, I want you to do it on this. That's her job. That's her job, guys. And then it's our job to vote on that, to yay or nay that. We did vote on that. We voted on that. I think it was December. We had a school committee vote. Do you guys remember John proposed, I wish he was here. Cindy, you might remember. He proposed the Bridges program to us. He said we had 5 of these children. They were out of district. The town, and again, it wasn't, they were saying this 383 is for this. What they did, and I've consulted with council various times on this, the school brought the assessment to them. We don't owe them any level of detail. They said, we can't swing this, so we'll take $383,000 of cash. And we know we don't have a choice, it's because it's the law. And oh, by the way, the schools use $350,000 of our own cash, okay, to fund this. And they said, but we can't do this next year. And we said, oh, okay. And that was the agreement that was made. There was no, well, we'll take this out next year, we'll do this. It was just like, okay, we're kind of like putting up a Hail Mary and hoping this works out. And it appears that it didn't work because they're upset about it. And it's not like we tried to deviously steal this money. So what happened was we had these children, the family moved out of town, correct? So then we had these extra funds, right? These children were out of district children, family moved out of town, we had some extra funds. You can't give it back to the town. It was
So
a
Meg, what
voted
does it
assessment.
mean out of district, right?
What does that mean?
Does everybody, we're trying to be transparent with the information. Out of district, we heard this a lot last year. This is what caused all the problems last year.
An out of
We
district.
can't provide the services that these special,
Yeah, let
Yeah.
Janelle, why don't you speak to what is an out of district placement and what is an average cost for an out of district placement?
So in out of district, when we say out of district, that refers to a student that needs a special education placement outside of our 3 school buildings. It's at the district's expense. It's part of the special education continuum. And students with much more significant needs sometimes need a placement outside of the school district. The cost for those placements range. There's a huge range. I made an attempt today to find an average cost for whatever that may be worth, and I calculated that out at about $85,000. It can be less. It can also
Per
be
child,
more.
Janelle, correct?
Correct, plus transportation. And that is based on the unique needs of a child. I think as we're hearing through the entire budget process, education in any context, including in our own buildings, is not inexpensive. There are significant costs associated with buildings, staffing, specialty, et cetera.
So I think, Janelle, so if you do 5 times 85,000, you get a certain number, and if the Bridges program was to close down, right, because those funds were shifted to that program, which absorbed 5 children, which an average of 85,000. So then you have to pay that for out of district if the Bridges minus 2 teachers.
Plus
transportation, which.
Well, and there's also, and I understand this is a conversation about finances, but we have to keep in mind that these are, and I know you know that, but just for the greater conversation, these are conversations about individual students and families who have rights to privacy and confidentiality. This conversation alone makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. All right, so we'll stop. In general,
I'd like to finish and say that in addition, if we can provide for students in the district, that is our responsibility. It's not our option for these students to just say, oh, we're gonna close this and send these students out. If we can educate them in the district, that's our responsibility.
Yeah, there are neighbors, there are
Yes.
friends, and
Yes, it's better for the child to be educated in the district with his or her peers. And again, it doesn't matter just from the financial aspect, whether the child has to go out of district or the child is in district, the district by law must pay for the child, whatever the needs are. It is the state law. It doesn't matter. So if we did close bridges down, John said it would be 5 times the cost. We would be mandated by law to pay for those tuitions. So closing bridges, so that money, that
For the finance
383,000.
committee who looks at numbers.
Yes.
right? Like that.
That's
all
what
the
that
way.
was. The school committee voted, we decided we were gonna start the bridges program. We used those funds to hire paraprofessionals that run the bridges program. So that's what that money was used for. And the school committee did vote on it. It was brought to us, I believe, by John and Janelle. We had a presentation on it. We learned about the savings and we decided at the time, since we had the savings, that was what we were gonna use it for. So in the budget, there's no actual savings, there's movement in the line items.
And I
And
think having the transparency about that is an investment in our district, in our children, to keep our own children here
Right.
within the district.
Yeah, we can do that.
But because the finance committee purely looks at numbers, if there's an estimate or guesstimate that if, this is the money that you're upset about, this is where it went, this is how it was invested, I think quite smartly, emotionally and educationally and fiscally, so, but to say that if we were to close this program, hypothetically, numbers only, this is what it could guesstimate, equate to. But if we keep it, this is better for the children, the district. And so it was wisely invested and it wasn't,
yeah, I don't know where the breakdown of communication was this year with that, because that was explained multiple times. I think it finally hit home at that forum, one that Kyle had a couple of days ago. They were like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. So, yeah, totally agree. And so now it's 6:30, right? We've been here for an hour and a half trying to talk about this budget, just trying to explain to people why this is not like a simple 2-second sheet on a page. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get it. I bet you're gonna leave here more confused than you came in. So I think this is just complicated stuff. And it's not something that you're gonna walk into town meeting and pick up and look at a sheet and say, I totally get it. It's something that if you really want to understand, you kind of have to follow along and put the effort
but
in.
I think if we.
I do think we need to be a little bit more transparent. We should have printed the handout at
I think we
town
print
meeting.
it and literally strike out the HVAC and
Mhm.
add a slide that says.
Or we can just adjust it. We don't need to strike it out. We can just, I think we have access to change that. Yeah, all right, so we have a motion on the table. We're discussing, all right, Jess, did you want to say
I
something?
did just want to say
yeah, go
something,
ahead,
just
Carol,
to,
of course.
just to close this.
Sure, of course.
I will work on that sheet. I'm going to take a look at what you have. We're going to use that model. We'll go through that. I
Yeah.
have access to the GL and we'll figure that
Yeah,
out.
Carol has a GL.
So we'll
yeah.
make sure we have that information, but I think you're right. I don't think it should sit there. I want to go to your link.
She left. They have to, she had to
And
get to town
Link,
meeting.
at least Link and the Boylston PTOs and the
Stags.
Stags.
Stags, I don't know if
Somebody-
anyone's meeting again before end of
June.
year. Are you guys, are you done?
Just now. We can
Share
talk, but
meetings.
I'll work on going over that with them. But the other thing I
June
was
4th.
thinking of
That's a good idea, Carol.
is
June
going
4th.
over that with everybody.
Yep.
And then also an idea I had too, which was if we could get our PTOs to set up through their committees to do a phone call about coming to the meeting. So I think that addresses what you were talking about, that we're not reaching.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't make that announcement like I do with school messenger for your snow days, but if our PTOs can help with a phone chain, the old fashioned way, hey, can you come to the meeting?
And I
Or
would
have to
text
get
10
it
friends,
political.
that's what people need
And
to
also,
do.
like,
Text
call 10 friends.
All the rec emails, like if they agree, like Berlin soccer sent out a message, say support the fields. Oh,
Yeah.
they could have done the schools too.
Well, we have to be really careful about what we do from our school committee emails, because we're
But
governed
they
by
can,
Robert's
but they'll
rules.
She's saying
No, no, no.
use the
I
rec
res-
departments, your
yeah,
sports.
like-
Oh, for
It's
100%,
Berlin
yes, 100%.
soccer,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Mike could go to Berlin soccer, yeah, everyone, Laurie can go to whoever she knows from.
Yeah, so we have a motion on the table right now.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table. So any more discussion on that?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
This isn't maybe about the motion, but just in terms of getting the word out, a lot of the other feedback I got today was that the townspeople who aren't necessarily following the
I
school
know.
district need to get this communication somehow. And I don't know how,
No.
but I
Does
just
19
wanted
Carter
to
have
put
an
that
email
out.
list?
Pardon?
19 Carter have an email list?
Carol went to 19 Carter, I think, twice, and like 10 people showed up. So I mean, again, it's not for, right? Did you go twice?
But it was not for the budget.
Oh, all right.
This is a Berlin issue, in terms of the communication in Berlin, and people that live there know this, and everybody will attest to it too. The communication is just subpar for community members.
Maybe
It
we
is,
could
and there
put, like,
needs to
sheets
be-
out at, like,
Yeah.
the post office, the general store.
Yeah, and maybe that's right,
So,
right.
yes.
Right.
That's what you guys gotta do.
If there's time for the item.
I mean, your Facebook page isn't, I mean, the Facebook page is,
Should we vote?
yeah, let's vote. Any more discussion?
Can you repeat the motion?
Yeah,
Because
good
did
idea.
it include re-meeting in 48 hours? That's my only question, sorry.
Yeah, repeat the motion.
Or just does it include?
No, I didn't.
Nicole.
All right, so, could you repeat what I said, Nicole, or did you not have that?
I wrote it. It says, vote to reapprove the March 19th, 2024 school committee budget as stated, less $400,000 for HVAC in Berlin Memorial Capital.
I don't think we need to put contingent upon speaking with the finance. I can give you my word with the Berlin FinCom. I can give you my word.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna,
I can make a motion for an amendment.
what do you guys think? Do you want to put that in the motion?
Yes, and was the budget as stated on the 19th, the one that we approved?
Yeah, that was the only budget vote we
Okay.
took.
Because that makes a difference, the way you say motion. Or it wasn't.
The only budget
If
vote
we
we
made a
took.
change on March 19th, which I don't remember and don't think we did,
We did not.
it would be a difference.
We made one vote on March 19th.
I can look at the
All
All right, so the motion's on the floor. Does somebody want to make an amendment?
I make a motion to make an amendment to the motion on the floor that it is also contingent on a meeting in 48 hours and a formal invitation to the Finance Committee of Berlin will be made.
Okay. So she has the motion. We need a second.
Second.
All right, Laura seconded that. All right. Any discussion on that amendment?
I'd be careful with that, that's,
I would too. I don't think we can determine what the Berlin Finance Committee is going.
yeah, I would make
Formal
it
invitation.
you said on a formal invitation or acceptance or?
No, I said
Discussion.
formal invitation to the Berlin
Oh.
Finance
I
Berlin.
didn't-
I think she said formal invitation, like I just have to send an email to Carol, because they deal with you. Carol can send an email to them,
Yeah,
and, yeah. It just, she said formal invitation, so Carol will send an email. All right.
Maybe you should send it.
I will send it, I'll be happy to. All right, all in favor
The amendment.
of the amendment?
Yes, aye.
I'm an aye as well. All right, the amendment passes. So now this vote is gonna be, we've already seconded the first motion, we have an amendment. This vote is gonna be to vote on the original motion with the amendment, meaning we're gonna approve the March 19th budget, contingent upon, school committee chair is gonna reach out with a formal invitation to the Berlin FinCom for, a discussion.
Minus the HVAC for BMS.
Yeah, the budget is less the HVAC. All right, so we have that motion on the table, it's seconded. Any more discussion on it? All right, all in favor?
I-
All right, I'm an aye as well. Congratulations, we have a reconsidered budget. Today is day 0. The town of Berlin now has 45 days to schedule another town meeting in which the town will re-vote on this budget. Okay, all right, thank you so much, guys. Real quick, we're gonna switch gears very quickly. So if you were here just to listen to the budget, we're done talking about that. Don't feel the need to stay. Trust me, I would be leaving too if I could.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Kim, I saw her. Before we get to Kim, we have some wonderful folks that have been sitting here for an hour, listening to what they may or may not be jumping into. So Carol, I know we're going to speak first. Can we just get them on?
Yep.
And then we're going to have to table some of this other stuff.
Megan, if I Julie Lee was thinking that someone should be present at the Berlin meetings. The Tohoto Capital is the first item on the agenda, even though it's with the finance.
Do you want to jet, Julie?
So she has
I have the school choice.
We're gonna have to table that because we have to jump into executive session.
Okay.
So we'll table that to the next meeting, which is probably gonna be Friday. Or we already said it's Friday at 4 PM.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, Julie?
Only for the budget stuff, not for that.
Well, all right, so here's the all right, so here it is, it's 6:37, we've got these guys here, they're from TMS, I wanna hear what they have to say, because we've got a proposal from them for them to step in and be an interim director of finance, very, very important for us to get this taken care of. That is not something we have to vote on tonight, but it is something that we want to, hear from, so Carol can make a decision, get our input on that. So I think we had allotted 15, 20 minutes for them to chat. So we're gonna do that. I think we're gonna have to move Carol's self-assessment and the school choice discussion to our next meeting, whether that's May 28th or Friday, May 10th. If you guys want. What do you, I'm asking, what do you guys think? I we have to jump into exec session.
Timeline?
No, the Friday meetings for any budget issues to
So then-
discuss with the town.
But school choice might affect that free cash.
My question is, what was the other date for the other meeting? Because we're getting.
May 28th, we have an as-needed meeting, so we can do Carol's.
So the problem is, May 22nd is when we're all getting her evaluation, and she has to present her report prior to that.
So here's what we can do. Here's what we're gonna do. So I don't wanna waste Kim's time, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hear from TMS quickly. They're gonna leave. I'm gonna close open session. All right, if you have to leave, you can go. We still have a quorum. Then we're gonna go back into open session for Carol's goals. I know, Cindy, we gotta vote on Nature's Classroom, so we'll do that really quickly after you hear from TMS.
Yes, are you asking, I don't mean to interrupt the meeting by any chance, but I had the opportunity to actually spend some time this afternoon reviewing everything that occurred last night at the meeting.
Oh, we would love to. Does anyone wanna hear about
And
that?
I wouldn't recommend having anyone go. It's not gonna make a difference. You already had, am I not right, 3 of the 4 pieces of the budget
Yes.
went in front of.
We just re-voted a new budget tonight, Kim.
Yeah, I don't.
2 of the 3 went in front of the
I
town.
think, I thought 3, because I actually spent some time going through them, and I think.
3 pieces
you had
went
the-
forth.
Oh, you're
both-
looking at debt.
You had the capital as well as the operating budget for the elementary school were already voted on. And then the what was the other one?
The operating for
The operating budget for Tohoto.
Tohoto.
I don't have any passes or, the fact of the matter is, the way I'm looking at it, in another community, they would put all of them together, so you would have one budget. They just piecemeal parsed it out. Once you had one that failed and didn't pass, your budget didn't pass.
That's what we said last
So
night.
I'm thinking your attendance there is great if you want to go, but I know that there's something you might want to participate in the executive session. So
Okay.
I'd rather have everyone here for that. That's I would ask.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see how
And
going to
relations
the
are
meeting
so
is gonna have any value. So.
Like,
Jess, I
mean,
mean,
wouldn't it?
we can only do so much. We've had this scheduled. I never in a million years would I have thought this budget was gonna fail on town floor based on conversations we did have with finance committee ahead of time. Let's hear from TMS quickly.
Can't disrupt our-
They knew we had our meeting tonight, so.
And you know what you can do, you can invite them to participate now, and you can resume conversation of the budget if you'd like. You could just say, we're gonna put the budget on hold for a minute, if you wanna go back to it.
No, we're done with the budget. We voted on the budget. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna have TMS speak so they can leave. We're gonna close open session, we're gonna go to executive session. And I know Julie does wanna make an appearance at town meeting at some point. After executive session, if you wanna leave, then Carol's gonna have to do our goals. The school choice, I don't know what to do about that. Think about what you wanna do about that. Go ahead, you guys are up.
Where do you want us to go?
Sorry. You know what?
What people like us to-
Yeah.
We can do whatever.
This is fine.
That's exactly right.
In an effort to get an interim help, and I tried in every direction to try to get some help in while we were in the process of hiring a new finance director, we reached out to one of our former superintendents, who again recommended TMS to us. We've had them in the past, and that worked very well for us. They do a lot of this work, and they'll speak to that around districts in the Commonwealth, exactly what we need to kind of fill that gap. And so I wanted to introduce, so I've sent you information on a proposal from them. We had to go out to bid. I did that. Megan and I met with the president, Andy Paquette, who spoke to us about what they can offer. And I also sent you, there was a brochure a while ago. So I tried to explain that to you last Friday about them coming in. I have with me tonight Andy Brown, who's the Vice President of Strategy and Communication, and Dr. Paul Livingston. We were talking, he's a former superintendent. And so both of them are very experienced in this work. And if they are not going to do the work with us, they have a company, it's a company. And depending on what our needs are, which I sent to them, they send the folks in to work with us. And the timing is perfect because they heard everything tonight.
Yeah.
They were probably writing the reports. And they're like, all right, yes, that's okay. They've walked into worse.
We have walked into a lot worse.
Yes, so I'd like you just to give a little summary, and then folks had questions here. I have not hired them yet. I wanted your input on this and to let me know what you would like to do, so. Go ahead.
As the superintendent was kind enough to introduce us, I'm Andy Brown. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Communications, which is why a lot of this conversation was really interesting to me, because a lot of it could be solved via communications. But that said, we're here to talk about finance, which is more of Paul's specialty. Paul has a background in business and being a superintendent. The company was founded in 2006. We have a staff of, it varies depending on needs, between 15 and 20 business managers, communication experts, curriculum experts, all have worked in schools to some capacity. We have licensed NCPPO. We can pretty much do anything you need us to do. And one of the nice things here is none of this is anything we haven't heard before. This is not uncommon with regionals. It's not, for us, it's not scary. And one of the things Eddie Paquette and I talk a lot about, one of the values in bringing us in is we are apolitical. We can go to the town side and say, no, this is the way it is. These are the requirements. This is the law. This is how it has to be for the schools to function legally and for students to graduate with an approved diploma. So we can kind of take a lot of that emotion out of the whole equation. But Paul can talk a little bit more about what we actually do on the finance side.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. I guess we were here before. Neither Andy or I were connected with the TMS when they were here, but I think the values and energy are basically the same. As Andy said, we are all school people. And when you work with TMS, you don't work with either just Andy or me or whatever. You're working with a team. We connect with each other. So if we don't have an expertise in something, there's somebody on the team that does, which is very unusual with when you bring in your own individual business manager. And certainly in today's climate, you can't find your own business manager. It's very difficult to find town finance people as well. Your CPA here said fund accounting is very different than profit and loss accounting, business accounting. So it's a form of energy that we can bring into your system that has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly everywhere. Currently, I'm working in Lunenburg and down in Watertown. I've been mentoring the business manager there in Watertown, finishing there the end of May now, and we're starting in Harvard. We've had many regional experiences. Myself individually, I will probably not be necessarily a rep, but I retired from Kentucky Regional a while back and worked at Neshoba Regional when we actually became one big happy family. Way back when I was in my 30s, I was superintendent in Lancaster, full-time Lancaster. And we put that district out of business and became one big happy family. That was a great experience, finance-wise and curriculum-wise. So all of us have different experiences like that. We worked at, regional schools as an organization, Mount Greylock, Mohawk Trail, Frontier. We worked here, Berlin, Boylston, Southern Berkshire, Dayton, Rehoboth, Farmington River. I'm actually leaving here tonight to stay overnight in Westfield to go to Farmington River tomorrow. It's a tiny little school district. Why they even exist is beyond me, but it's 100 students.
Wow.
100 students, and they have two towns they have to get together. And they have like 2 people that work in the office. So, I'm there to do sort of a review of their business practices and start to write a report and say, what is best practice? That's something that we can bring in from having seen it in so many places. You have to honor the culture that exists in the district and in each of your communities. But you have to find ways to bring that culture into best practice all the time. And it doesn't happen overnight. You don't change that, like a boat turning around. It takes time, but what are the steps? And we've been successful in bringing some of those best practices forward, whether it starts with policy and procedure or just knowing some knowledge. I mean, we couldn't answer any of your questions probably tonight, quite honestly, because you have to know your town bylaws in each town. You really have to know your regional agreement. And then still, even knowing a lot of that stuff, you have to have advice of counsel sometimes to make sure that it's going in the right way. There's Mass General Law, we're pretty experienced with. But those are the kinds of things that, again, when you hire TMS, you hire a team of people. And we're there, we're apolitical, we're just here to do the job. We've done it many places. We aren't always on site. You perhaps heard that, but we work virtually. I mean, I'm working in Lunenburg 1 day a week, but I'm talk to my wife a lot of times, and I'm sitting in Watertown.
And that goes to the way it kind of works. We have a lead and we have a second, and then we have our whole team. So we would assign 2 people here. Depending on what the agreement we come up with is, we might be on site 1, 2, or 3 days a week. To start with, it might be more just to get our heads wrapped around everything and help you guys get through this rough patch. But after that, just because we've left for the day and we're not coming back, let's say until next Monday, that doesn't mean we're not still working. That doesn't mean we're not still available. We're still working on all that stuff behind the scenes. We're still taking phone calls. We're still answering emails. We're still doing all the work. But it's that model nobody wants to talk about anymore, that hybrid model that kind of came out of the pandemic. Nobody likes it. It's an ugly word, but we've been doing it since 2006. And it works really well because it means you get exactly what you need, and you get really a bigger team out of it. Instead of having one business manager, maybe a payroll person, you get a business manager plus payroll who can also do grant processing, and a whole team of people who they can call and say, look, we need some help with this. Bring them in, get them up to speed, and then that just gets done, and maybe it's a special project, and they move on. Whatever the actual agreement is on what work we're doing, just because we don't walk around with a checklist saying, oh, that falls outside of it. Andy Puckett's fond of saying, the business manager's business card is the biggest business card out there because it's, you need some operations work done. Well, that goes on the business card. You need finance, you need grant writing, you need all of these different things. We will do it all. And we won't, if something comes up that it's slightly out of the realm of what we said we were going to do, we'll just do it. It's part of the nature of being a business manager.
That's exactly
And
it.
I would be extremely grateful.
We're ready.
I just want to add that
The
in.
grant writing
And if you
sounds
could
nice.
start tomorrow, or maybe tonight. I just want to, add too, what I had shared with the school committee. I worked out a timeline with TMS if they can join us until August 7th with the option of perhaps going out longer, but I do want it to overlap if we do hire a permanent finance director, and that is out right now. It's posted. We do have candidates for that, and that's something I wanted to talk to the school committee tonight also about serving on that interview committee. 1 or 2 folks to join us for that, so I can tell you a little bit more about that. But so they would be with us until at least August 7th, because I think it's going to be important if we do get a permanent person to overlap and be able to kind of transition from these folks into that new person and to mentor them as well. So that's my thinking. I sent you the quote that they offered us. I do have the funds to be able to cover that at this time. So I didn't know if you had any questions for them, anything else you'd like to learn about? Probably not.
I think a team sounds nice.
Andy Paquette already helped us with something that we were stuck on. We could not, and he just did it. But what they do is similar to when I talked to Kim on the phone and her team. I don't see Kim every day, but if I give I talk to you every day at night and weekend. But she doesn't know the answer. She has a team that she goes to, specific, like when we did the Berlin lease, she got an attorney who worked specifically on that area, and that's what they do. And I love that. It's very complicated, school finance these days. And one of the things you mentioned was that regional agreement, and I heard that from our Mars folks. Again, today I was on the phone with Steve Hammond, to go back and look at your regional agreement for information. So all those pieces are a lot to look at.
And that's the first thing we do, any engagement, first thing we do is we read the regional agreement. It's dry, it's boring, but we need to know how everything works.
And how is it connected to your school committee policy? How are your policies connected to your procedures? Simple things like how do you collect revenue? Often is an issue in communities. It's just not clean. And those are the things that end up with districts getting in trouble. Now, on a short-term basis, obviously through August 7th, we are not going to be able to do all of that, particularly when you're trying to end one year and start another year in a difficult, when you don't even know what your budget is. But those are the kinds of things. We've done studies of contract negotiations and projections of salary for the purpose of overrides. We've done the mentoring, we've done curriculum work, we've done John Hopkins kinds of grants for places and others. So the experience is there, and that's what nowadays is very difficult to find out in the public. Many have looked, and that's why we're fortunate to get many calls. We've been in Carlisle, we've been in Harvard, or about to go to Harvard. We've been in the city of Watertown, we've been in regionals. So
You guys sound so experienced and grounded and calm, and I think we need that.
Yes,
And I'm just wondering, do you guys ever act as the finance director, like full-time for a school?
I had asked that.
I mean,
I had already asked
or is this
that.
only for like interim type things?
No, we'll function.
Like
They've
long
been in-
term.
We've been in Ware for 15 years.
And what's the cost comparison? I mean, it's hard to say, but
It usually comes out to be between 60 and 80% of what you pay for an in-house person.
wow.
And it
Just-
also depends
I
on
had-
the
I had asked that
services,
too.
the services we request
I had already-
from the company.
And
This
you don't
is-
have, you don't have benefits.
Or equipment. We have our own laptops.
Right.
This is a good trial period to see how this fits for the district. So that's why Carol and I had kind of talked and we're like, let's give it like a 3 month. We might love it and we might find we have no applicants. We might find like an amazing applicant that we're like, oh, we can grow this person. We can still have these folks as mentors because we clearly could use, I feel like, as a district, because we have so few people, I think we could use, all the help we can get.
One of the things that
Jinx.
we haven't mentioned is we have another side of the business, and that's the side I run, that's the strategic planning and the communications arm. And every
Guess
year.
we need that too.
Well, every year, that's kind of where the business arm and the communications arm come together on budget presentations. And how do we communicate the budget? How do we explain basically gobbledygook?
So you could make that sheet.
Can you make
for
the
us?
Yeah, it's.
We can't make the sheet.
And sometimes it's as simple as the story I like to tell is about when I worked with Cumberland, Rhode Island. They knew they were going to have a tough budget process. And so what we did back in October, we identified 4 or 5 flashpoints that we knew one would help get passed, but 2 would get people behind the budget. And one of them was librarians. So they had 1.5 librarians for 3 elementary schools. And they wanted to increase that to 2. So they started telling the story of basically throughout the year, social media posts about the library. And media specialists took what they were doing, made sure the photographs we took were in different libraries, in different schools. People started connecting like, wow, she's all over the place. And then when it came closer to the time, when in the budget presentation, it was explained, look, this is how many we have. We want to increase it to this. This is how much it's going to cost. And the library and media specialists, that's something all of us grew up with as we got a special, we got a library once a week. And suddenly everybody was up in arms. The budget passed because of library. Because people thought that was so important to their shared experience that they wanted to make sure their kids had it. And it was just simple storytelling. But that's kind of like a bigger budget process as far as communications go. But it's not something you guys can think about in terms of next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, again, we posted the permanent position, which is pretty traditional for school districts to do. We don't know who's coming to the table for us to meet. We may find somebody that we really see potential in, we may not find somebody. I don't know, I can't promise you. The pool is small and getting smaller. We just were with Assabet Valley, they had an emergency meeting today to appoint a new finance director because the other one just announced that she's leaving. She's only been there not even the beginning of this year. And as a result, they are doing an in-house person, somebody who was in a lesser kind of position and is taking over, and they're going to train her from there. So that's what's starting to happen now. They're going in-house. Shrewsbury did the same thing. They took a principal, elementary principal, and he is now the finance director of the district. So people are making creative decisions around, making this work for them. But I respect your work, and
we are one of those creative decisions. We're an alternative to the traditional model.
Can you do bookkeeping too?
Mhm.
Okay. What about a payroll?
Yep.
I started as a music teacher. I was a music teacher for 12 years in Wayland, became business manager in Franklin, and had some very good connections with other business managers, and people can learn, and a great town accountant that I learned from way back when.
That's true.
And then I was a superintendent for, over 20 years. It's not hard to do necessarily, but it's unique. It's different than when people yourselves walk into it, or people from the finance world. It's a different kind of thing. But I think we know how to explain it well and how to put it together well. And
So you can solve the problems that you saw us facing tonight.
every one of them
That's.
in a week.
Yeah, do you see, this is we're all volunteers
No,
and we're
we
all
can't.
picking up all this extra slack because we.
We can put the things in place.
I am comfortable. I wanted to make sure you were all
You don't need a vote from
comfortable.
us, it's your decision.
Correct, but I still respect your opinions, your feedback, and your questions too, so I want to know.
I just wanted to say, my mom always used to say, and till this day she still does, if something, bad happens, sometimes you get what you need and not what you want. We don't want to be in this situation, but boy, do we need you. And after everything that just happened, I feel, I mean, blood pressure.
Yeah,
I felt that too.
You're experiencing
Oh,
this,
my.
thank you. Because you've taken something that's been very stressful and there's hope. So I appreciate that.
Always hope.
Yeah.
Great job.
Hope is mandatory.
Moving forward, so everybody.
And a grant position will never be approved, so that's lovely that you do that as well.
Yeah.
And when would you be able to start?
That's more of a decision between you and Andy, but I know that there's a plan that Nicole Wood, she's been both a lead and support, is ready to come on board and start on the ground, and then we have somebody else who needs to finish up an engagement, and then he'll join her and take over as lead.
It sounds to me that the school committee is supporting this, and so therefore I will be in touch with you probably around 5 tomorrow morning if I get home early.
I will be.
So I will just, because we have the bid again, so I have to just honor the bid and whatever process
Okay.
involves that, so.
All right, this is great. Thank you guys so much for coming. Sorry you had to sit through all that, but at least you can relay the information to your team because that is what we need help with immediately.
Good to meet all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Cindy, before we go into, all right, go ahead. I'm gonna have Cindy present Nature's Classroom and we'll do that vote. You don't need to. Cindy, could you present to us the donations for Nature's Classroom and let us just do that vote? We have to wait for Julie, guys, to get back into executive session, right, Kim? We need Julie for executive session?
We can start without her, because I think that she has.
She said she was coming back.
She'll come back. I think she's going to try to attend the first motion of the
Okay.
continued town meeting.
Okay.
We can wait a few minutes on.
Let's do, Cindy, well, Cindy has to before, so why don't we have Cindy, is gonna, so we've got 2 votes and then we've got the policies. So we can do those now while we're waiting. Let's give Julie like 5-10 minutes to come back. So the vote for the approval of fundraising request by 4th and 5th grade music parents at the end of the year concert at Tohoto. They are gonna do that through Link. I don't know if they're gonna do it anymore. As Hillary stated tonight, she had emailed me a few days ago and said that they didn't need to do a vote on that because if they were gonna do anything, Link was just they were gonna sell snacks at the concert at Tohoto.
June 5th.
On June 5th, and BESPTO is gonna do the same thing. So that was my
Oh, it's through them. It's a joint effort.
it's a joint effort, so one of them is gonna do something with a food truck and the other one is gonna sell snacks at the concert. And they originally, I think a group of parents was gonna do it, but then they just decided that Link was gonna do this fundraiser. So they do not need approval, we do not need to vote on that. So Cindy, Cindy's gonna present, I guess there were some various donations for Nature's Classroom. Cindy's gonna present those and then we'll vote on those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
So we have a few, I tell you I'm gonna do this again, we're gonna do this in September next year to get this out of the way, so it's not last minute.
Yeah.
But we had a music fundraiser, parents organized for $1,026. We had a PYOP fundraiser, and I didn't know what that was, but it's a paint your own pottery that Jess helped organize, that was $40. And then we had a pasta dinner, a raffle basket, penny war for $4,689.06.
Oh my God.
That was a huge one. So
You
that's
raised $4,000 with Penny Wars?
Penny, it was 3 things, raffle baskets,
Oh, the
pasta
baskets.
dinner, which we served.
And the
pasta. It was a fun night. Those are for Nature's Classroom. I also had another one, it was a PTO/student council bake sale at the,
Oh, yes.
that was something for $472 that goes into the student council account, activities account.
All right, so let's vote on the Nature's Classroom one first. Does anyone have any questions for those Nature's Classrooms donations? Do you guys take a look at all those?
Is it BMS too? They have a bunch too.
No, John didn't have any.
I think he got his done the last time.
Oh, okay.
We had a few extra come in, and plus I didn't do the pasta dinner on the last.
But in the drives, it was the calendar raffle and stuff was in there.
Does John have?
Yeah, he does. There's a bunch that yes. Sorry, yes.
Sorry, hold on 1 sec. All right, so we'll vote on those, let me see.
So, I mean, I can kind of speak to it. I've been on communication.
Yeah, Jess, if you want to do that, that would be great. Sorry, I'm also running on about, like Lisa and I were talking, like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. You know, Mike too, and Lisa, I mean, I think we got home at midnight last night after a grueling night of.
So they did, so similar to what they did last year with BMS parents did a calendar raffle. So every day was a different donation. You could win a different thing on a day. So Beth, who actually had a meeting with, she said they raised $3,534. 5% of the sales has to go back to the state because there had to be a permit. And so she's writing that check to cover that.
What was this for?
This is Nature's Classroom.
No, sorry, is this the raffle?
The raffle, the calendar raffle.
And why do they have to put 5% back to the state?
So they were told, as we were covering that for BES.
State sanctioned permitted raffle?
A raffle, you need a.
Oh, because it's gambling? Okay,
Yes,
fine.
yes.
Probably some of the excise tax.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it looks like some individual
checks contributed to that because parents were selling, so they wrote checks at the end. All of them have notes on them, say class of 21 raffle or Nature's Classroom, and Beth's letter covers that as it was for the calendar, raising funds for the calendar. Looks like Mark Adams did a $500 donation from Berlin Insurance Company to cover the cost of the bus, and any excess funds going to the class of 2031.
All right, so this is all the raffle stuff. So John did have donations for Nature's Classroom, Carol? We're voting on Nature's Classroom stuff right now. All right. Okay, thank you, Jess. So does anyone have any questions on any of the Nature's Classroom donations? All right, so do you know what the total?
That was what you guys in here too. Didn't we do a vote on that one the last time? No. Papagino's thing, $153.64. You want the total?
I would love the total that we're voting on tonight, so. The deposit from Berlin is $3,534, right? 3,534 minus the $186, right? I know no one really knows because no one was involved in this, that's in this room. Okay. Yeah, 3,534, okay.
That's for just the calendar raffle.
Yeah, and then there was $500 from Mark Adams.
I guess the question is I guess all of those checks from parents are included in Beth's final total.
These are the checks that make up that 3,534, okay. All right, so why don't we do Berlin first? So the total amount is, Mark gave another is the 500 included in that? No.
No, it's a separate, it's for the bus. For Nature's Classroom. For Berlin.
All right, so the motion should be to approve 3,534 plus 500. So it's $4,034, right? That's what Berlin got? All right, so could I please have a motion to approve the donation from various donors to the class of 2031 for Nature's Classroom in the amount of $4,034?
Second.
All right, any discussion on that?
I might abstain just because I have kids.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you've got
All right, we still have a quorum. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. All right, so Cindy, what's your total donations?
For Nature's Classroom is $5,908.70.
Okay, so.
The other one is separate.
Yeah, that will take separate. All right, so could I please have a motion to approve donations for Nature's Classroom from various parents and fundraisers in the amount of $5,908.70, and any excess funds will stay with the class of 2031, correct?
Second.
All right. That was Lisa and Laurie. Okay, any discussion?
I abstain.
Jess is gonna abstain. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well, that passes. And then the last donation was for, that was the Papagino's.
Nope, bake sale at PTO
The
Talent
bake
Show.
sale.
Collaboration.
Yeah, that's right, they had a bake sale at the talent show, and they're donating that money to the student activity account.
$472, yes, for student council.
Student council, they're donating that money to student
They
council.
did it in collaboration, so the kids all ran it, but it's going to the student council, yes.
And they're
Which is already has.
So PTO is just donating 400 and, what's the amount, 472 you said?
Yes, but they kind of did it together, so it's not like a donation, they work together to do.
It's going to the school.
It's going to the student council account in our student activities, which is
All right.
already there.
$472, all right, so could I please have a motion to approve the donation of $472 raised from the PTO bake sale, which will be used for the student council at Boylston Elementary School?
To approve gardening.
As for gardening?
Well, they want to work into the garden, they want to do our garden beds over. So whatever they're gonna do with this money is going by the student activity account, the student council. So yes, that's the plan, is the gardening things, but I don't know if it's gonna need that much money, so it'll stay in that account.
All right, so we just have it, the motion is to have it go to the student council, that way if the gardening is too much, if there's not enough for gardening, or if there's too much, they can use it however they see fit. So it'll go to the student council fund. That's a motion on the table. Lisa moved the motion, Laurie seconded it. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well.
I'll
Just,
abstain again.
okay, she's abstaining. Thank you. All right, so that motion passes. So those donations are all set. Thank you very much. While we're at it, do you guys want to vote on these policies? We had some, no?
Could I ask that
Yeah.
we postpone the vote on these policies because we didn't get the chance with everything to fine tune the edits that we need to do?
Absolutely. Do you want to postpone this to May 28th?
Yep.
Yep.
And, but ILD is there for a first read, so we can include that in May as well.
All right, as a vote?
Yeah.
All right, we also have the school committee calendar as a first read. There was one typo on there, Nicole, which we'll fix. It was just that all the May meetings were as needed. The first meeting in May should be just a regular meeting. We call it a regular meeting. Okay, all right, let's see. We just heard from Julie. Julie is heading back now. So we're moving the policies. Julie's on her way back now. All right, so the only thing we did not get to is Julie wanted to open up school choice, which we need to make a motion on the table to open up. So Julie wanted to talk about school choice again. I believe according to Robert's rules, in order to reopen a discussion, we need a quorum. We'd have to vote just to reopen the discussion, okay? It doesn't mean we're gonna re-vote on it again or a vote is gonna pass. So I think that's something we'll push. We're gonna push the subcommittee updates because we've got Kim here. And why don't we take our executive session and then we'll come back and we can sit with Carol and do her goals. We don't need everybody else here. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Let's get the executive session done. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjourn the meeting now. So could I have a motion to adjourn open session and enter into executive session, which we will, after we conclude, we will return to open session. So wait, I'm not adjourning the meeting. Sorry, I don't know.
No, I leave you on. I think you're adjourning this portion and then you'll be, oh, that's not how it works. Nice.
Somebody help me.
Move to enter executive session to discuss strategy and respond to potential litigation against the district and return to open session.
All right, thank you. So moved. Second. All right, Lisa second. All right, any discussion on that? All in- Yeah, we'll do it. All right, all in favor?
What about
Bro,
the filming for when we reopen?
sorry, Kylie, you're gonna have to come back.
What time?
No, so we've done that, Jess, that we've come back and we have not filmed it. Nicole will have to, sorry, stay and take minutes. She's probably should stay for executive session and take minutes as
Yes.
well. All right. The minutes from executive session will be confidential. We'll review them at our next meeting. If you guys remember, we review them on paper. And then I believe we do vote to approve. Kim's gonna advise us on all that. All right, so the motion's on the table. It's been seconded. We're gonna do a roll call vote. Jess, sorry. Laurie, Mike, Lisa, I'm an aye as well. Good job, guys. We voted a budget.